Have you ever experienced this? A word is right on the tip of your tongue, but no matter how hard you try, it simply refuses to come out. Or perhaps someone introduces themselves and seconds later their name disappears from your mind. Maybe you walk into a room in your own house, stop in the doorway, and suddenly your mind goes completely blank. You stand there wondering what you came for in the first place. These small mental short circuits can be frustrating, and over time they begin to plant a quiet but unsettling question in the back of your mind. Am I losing my memory? If you have felt this way, you are not alone. Millions of people begin noticing these moments as they get older, and the most important thing to understand is that these experiences are not necessarily a sentence you must accept. Many people assume memory simply fades with age and that nothing can be done about it. But what if that belief is only partially true? What if your brain still has the ability to strengthen itself, even after 60, 70, or 80 years of life? What if there were a simple exercise that takes only 60 seconds a day that could help awaken your memory starting today? To understand this possibility, we first need to change the way we think about the brain. For decades, people believed that the brain was like a machine that slowly wore out over time. According to that idea, once certain mental abilities declined, there was little that could be done to recover them. However, modern neuroscience has revealed something extraordinary. The brain is not a rigid machine. It is a living system capable of adapting, reorganizing, and strengthening itself throughout life. This ability is called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's capacity to create new connections between neurons and strengthen existing ones in response to experience, learning, and activity. Imagine your brain as a vast forest filled with pathways. Each time you learn something new, recall a memory, or practice a skill, you walk down one of these paths. The more frequently you travel that path, the clearer and wider it becomes. Eventually it becomes a well-defined road that is easy for your brain to travel. But if you stop using that path for a long time, plants begin to grow over it. The route becomes harder to see, and eventually it may feel as if it disappeared entirely. The important point is that the path did not vanish permanently. It simply needs to be used again. When you begin walking it once more, the vegetation clears and the path becomes visible again. This is exactly how memory works. Forgetting a name or struggling to recall a word does not always mean the memory is gone. Often it simply means the neural pathway associated with that memory has weakened from lack of use. The brain, like any other system in the body, responds to stimulation. When challenged regularly, it adapts and becomes stronger. When neglected, it becomes less efficient. This is why individuals who continue to learn new things, engage in conversations, read, solve problems, or maintain social connections often preserve strong cognitive abilities well into their later years. Neurologists have studied individuals sometimes called superagers. These are people in their 80s, 90s, or even older who demonstrate memory and cognitive abilities comparable to individuals decades younger. Researchers have discovered that these individuals do not necessarily possess extraordinary genetics. Instead, they share habits that keep their brains engaged. They challenge their minds regularly, stay socially active, maintain curiosity, and continue learning throughout life. Their brains remain dynamic rather than passive. One powerful method used to stimulate neuroplasticity involves combining physical movement with mental activity. This type of dual-task stimulation forces multiple regions of the brain to work together at the same time. When this happens, communication between brain areas increases. The frontal lobe, responsible for attention and decision-making, the cerebellum, responsible for coordination, and the temporal lobe, responsible for memory, must all interact simultaneously. This interaction encourages the brain to build new neural connections. A simple 60-second exercise can take advantage of this principle. It requires no equipment, no expensive technology, and no special training. It can be done while sitting in a chair. Despite its simplicity, it challenges the brain in a surprisingly powerful way because it combines three key elements: controlled breathing, coordinated movement, and a mental search task. Each of these elements activates different neural networks. When performed together, they stimulate communication across the brain. Before explaining the exercise itself, it is helpful to understand why these components matter. First, controlled breathing increases oxygen flow to the brain. The brain consumes approximately 20% of the body's oxygen supply despite representing only a small fraction of body weight. Oxygen is essential for the electrical activity of neurons. Deep, slow breathing helps deliver oxygen more efficiently through the bloodstream, improving alertness and mental clarity. Second, coordinated physical movement activates motor pathways and improves circulation to the brain. Even small movements can stimulate areas responsible for coordination and balance. These areas communicate with memory centers, meaning that simple physical activity can indirectly influence cognitive function. Third, the mental task stimulates verbal fluency and retrieval processes. Verbal fluency exercises require the brain to rapidly search stored information and bring it into conscious awareness. This process activates networks responsible for language, memory retrieval, and attention. When combined with physical movement and breathing, the brain must manage multiple processes simultaneously. This creates a strong stimulus for neuroplasticity. Let me illustrate this concept with the story of a patient named Ramon. Ramon was 78 years old when he first visited a neurology clinic with his daughter. For most of his life he had worked as a carpenter, a man who used both his hands and his mind to create beautiful furniture and wooden structures. He had always been known as a lively storyteller who could recall events from decades earlier with remarkable detail. But in recent years something had changed. Ramon began forgetting names during conversations. He sometimes lost track of what he was saying halfway through a sentence. One day he could not remember the name of his youngest grandson. The confusion on the child's face and the embarrassment Ramon felt afterward deeply affected him. When Ramon arrived at the clinic, he appeared resigned. He believed his memory problems were simply the result of aging. He spent most of his day watching television because reading had become difficult. His world had slowly become smaller. Instead of challenging his mind, he had begun withdrawing from activities that once stimulated it. Rather than prescribing complex treatments, the neurologist offered Ramon a simple proposal. He asked Ramon to perform a short 1-minute exercise every day for 4 weeks. Ramon was skeptical. He could not imagine that something so simple could make any difference. But he agreed to try. The exercise involved sitting upright, moving one arm at a time while breathing slowly, and naming items belonging to a category such as fruits or animals. At first Ramon felt slightly foolish performing the movements. But he continued practicing each day. After about a week he noticed that his mind felt clearer in the morning. After 2 weeks he found it easier to follow conversations on the news. By the end of the 4th week something remarkable happened. His grandson asked about a toy Ramon had built years earlier. Ramon not only remembered the toy, he recalled the entire story behind it, including the type of wood he used and even the name of the family dog they had at the time. This improvement did not occur because of a miracle cure. It happened because Ramon began stimulating his brain again. The exercise forced his brain to engage in coordinated activity that strengthened neural connections. Over time, the pathways responsible for memory retrieval became easier to access. The encouraging part of this story is that Ramon's experience reflects a principle available to anyone. The brain retains its ability to adapt throughout life. Even if some pathways have weakened, new ones can still be formed. By challenging the brain regularly with tasks that require coordination, attention, and memory retrieval, it is possible to stimulate these changes. The 60-second exercise you are about to learn is designed precisely for this purpose. It may appear simple at first glance, but its strength lies in the combination of movement, breathing, and mental engagement. Each repetition encourages communication between different brain regions, gradually strengthening the networks involved in memory and attention. And because the exercise requires only a minute a day, it becomes easy to integrate into everyday life without disrupting your routine. Now that you understand the principle behind neuroplasticity and why the brain can still adapt at any age, it is time to learn the structure of the 60-second exercise itself. The goal of this routine is not physical strength but coordination and mental engagement. The exercise is divided into 2 simple phases, each lasting 30 seconds. The first phase prepares the brain by improving oxygen flow and activating coordination centers. The second phase adds a cognitive challenge that stimulates memory retrieval and verbal processing. Together, these 2 phases create a powerful signal that encourages the brain to form and strengthen neural connections. Before beginning the exercise, preparation is important. Sit on the edge of a chair with your feet flat on the floor and positioned about the width of your hips apart. Your back should be straight but relaxed. Place both hands gently on your thighs. Take a moment to close your eyes and take a slow, deep breath through your nose. Then exhale slowly through your mouth. This brief moment of calm signals the nervous system to shift away from stress and into a state that supports learning and concentration. When you open your eyes again, your mind should feel slightly calmer and more focused. The first 30 seconds of the exercise focus on activation and oxygenation. During this phase, you will perform a slow, coordinated movement with your arms while synchronizing the motion with your breathing. Begin by lifting your right arm slowly forward until it becomes parallel with the floor. As you lift the arm, inhale slowly through your nose and count mentally to 4. When your arm reaches the top position, pause briefly and then begin lowering it back down to your thigh. As you lower the arm, exhale slowly through your mouth and count again to 4. The movement should feel controlled and relaxed, never rushed. Once your right arm returns to your thigh, repeat the same movement with the left arm. Lift the left arm forward while inhaling slowly for a count of 4, then lower it while exhaling for another count of 4. Continue alternating arms in this slow rhythm. The key during these first 30 seconds is maintaining calm breathing and smooth movement. This combination increases oxygen delivery to the brain and gently activates coordination centers located in the cerebellum and motor cortex. At the same time, the movement helps release tension from the neck and shoulders. Many people unknowingly carry tension in these areas throughout the day. Tight muscles in the neck can slightly restrict blood flow traveling toward the brain. By moving the arms slowly and breathing deeply, the muscles relax and circulation improves. As more oxygen reaches brain tissue, neurons receive the fuel they need to function efficiently. This prepares the brain for the cognitive challenge that follows. After the first 30 seconds, you transition into the second phase of the exercise without stopping the arm movement. Continue lifting and lowering your arms exactly as before, maintaining the same rhythm of breathing. Now, however, you will add a mental task. This is where the true stimulation of neuroplasticity begins. While your arms continue moving, begin naming items belonging to a specific category. For example, you might choose fruits as your first category. As you lift your right arm and inhale, say the word apple either aloud or silently in your mind. As you lower the arm and exhale, think about the next fruit. When you raise your left arm, you might say banana. Continue with orange, strawberry, grape, pear, or any other fruit that comes to mind. The goal is not to find the perfect word but simply to keep the brain searching actively for the next item. If you momentarily run out of ideas, do not worry. Pause briefly, breathe, and allow another word to appear naturally. This dual task, moving your body while searching for words, forces different parts of the brain to communicate simultaneously. The motor cortex controls the arm movement. The cerebellum coordinates timing and rhythm. The frontal lobe manages attention and decision-making. Meanwhile, the temporal lobe retrieves words from memory. When these regions work together, neural networks become stronger. It is similar to asking several sections of an orchestra to perform different melodies that must still harmonize with each other. The brain responds by improving communication between its networks. Another advantage of this exercise is that it keeps the brain out of autopilot mode. Many daily activities eventually become automatic, requiring very little conscious thought. When the brain operates on autopilot for long periods, fewer new neural connections are formed. This exercise interrupts that pattern by requiring simultaneous physical coordination and mental effort. The brain must remain actively engaged for the entire minute. One of the most encouraging aspects of this routine is its simplicity. It does not require special equipment, gym membership, or complicated instructions. It can be performed almost anywhere, in the living room, at the kitchen table, or even during a break in daily activities. Because it lasts only 60 seconds, it becomes easy to repeat consistently each day. Consistency is the most important factor in strengthening neural pathways. Many people wonder whether such a short exercise can truly influence the brain. The answer lies in repetition. Just as muscles grow stronger through repeated training, neural connections strengthen when they are activated repeatedly over time. Performing this exercise once will not transform memory overnight. But repeating it every day begins sending a consistent signal to the brain that these pathways are important and should be maintained. Another important benefit comes from the breathing pattern included in the exercise. Deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of the nervous system responsible for relaxation and recovery. Chronic stress interferes with memory formation because stress hormones can disrupt communication between neurons. By calming the nervous system, the breathing pattern creates an environment where the brain can learn more effectively. In addition, the slow movements encourage mindfulness. When people move quickly or mechanically, their attention often drifts elsewhere. But when movements are slow and deliberate, the mind naturally follows the motion. This increased awareness strengthens concentration, another cognitive ability that tends to decline when not regularly exercised. As the exercise becomes familiar, you may notice that your brain begins adapting. During the first few days you might struggle to find words quickly. That is perfectly normal. The difficulty itself is a sign that the brain is being challenged. After a week or two, many people find that the words come more easily and that their attention during the exercise becomes stronger. This improvement reflects the brain's ability to reorganize and strengthen its networks through repeated stimulation. In the next section, we will explore how to gradually increase the difficulty of this exercise over time. Just as muscles require progressive training to continue growing stronger, the brain also benefits from new challenges. By slightly adjusting the mental tasks each week, you can keep the brain engaged and prevent it from becoming too comfortable with the routine. This progression ensures that the exercise continues stimulating neuroplasticity and supporting memory for the long term. Once you become familiar with the 60-second routine, the next important step is progression. The brain is incredibly intelligent and adaptive. If you repeat exactly the same challenge every day without variation, the brain eventually becomes efficient at that task and the stimulation decreases. This is why progression is essential. Just like physical exercise requires gradually increasing difficulty to keep muscles growing stronger, mental exercise also requires new challenges to keep the brain actively building neural connections. The goal is not to make the exercise complicated, but to keep the brain slightly challenged so it continues forming and reinforcing pathways. During the first week, the best approach is to keep the mental task simple and concrete. Categories such as fruits, animals, vegetables, or pieces of furniture work well because they are easy for the brain to access. While continuing the arm movements and breathing pattern, you simply name items belonging to the category. Apple, banana, orange, grape, strawberry. Dog, cat, horse, elephant, rabbit. Chair, table, sofa, cabinet, shelf. The purpose in this stage is to allow your brain to become comfortable performing the physical movement while simultaneously searching for words. Many people notice that at the beginning their attention jumps back and forth between the movement and the words. That is normal. Within a few days the coordination begins to feel more natural. This early phase is important because it establishes the neural rhythm of the exercise. Your brain learns to synchronize breathing, movement, and mental retrieval. The frontal lobe focuses attention, the motor cortex coordinates the arms, and the temporal lobe searches memory for words. These regions begin communicating more efficiently with each repetition. Even if the exercise feels simple, this communication is already stimulating neuroplasticity. During the second week, the difficulty can increase slightly. Instead of naming objects from a category, you can choose a letter of the alphabet and name as many words as possible that begin with that letter. For example, you might choose the letter P. While raising your right arm you say, paper, while lowering it you search for the next word. Then you lift your left arm and say, pencil. Next might come, plant, picture, plate, or piano. This task forces the brain to retrieve information using a different search strategy. Instead of scanning through categories, the brain must filter words based on their starting sound. This type of task strongly activates areas involved in language processing and executive function. Executive function refers to the brain's ability to organize, plan, and control mental activity. When searching for words by letter, the brain must constantly evaluate whether each word meets the rule. This keeps attention active and prevents the brain from slipping into automatic patterns. During the third week, you can introduce another challenge known as reverse counting. This exercise stimulates working memory and concentration. While continuing the arm movements and breathing pattern, begin counting backward from 100 by subtracting 3 each time. 100, 97, 94, 91, 88, and so on. If you lose track, simply pause for a moment, breathe, and resume from the last number you remember. The goal is not mathematical perfection but sustained mental effort. Reverse counting activates the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for reasoning, planning, and mental control. What makes this task powerful is the combination of calculation and coordination. Your brain must maintain the counting sequence while your body continues performing the physical movement and breathing rhythm. This multitasking forces communication across several brain networks simultaneously. When different networks cooperate frequently, new neural pathways form and existing pathways strengthen. After the third week, creativity becomes the key to maintaining stimulation. The categories can become more specific. Instead of naming animals, you might name birds, sea animals, or farm animals. Instead of fruits, you might name tropical fruits or fruits beginning with a specific letter. You could name cities around the world, types of tools, musical instruments, or famous historical figures. The important rule is simple: if the task begins to feel too easy, it is time to change it. The point where the exercise feels slightly challenging is exactly where neuroplasticity is most active. If the task is too simple, the brain remains in autopilot mode. If it is too difficult, frustration may interrupt the rhythm. The ideal challenge produces mild effort while still allowing you to continue the movement smoothly. Many people also ask how fast the movements should be. The answer is slower than most expect. One of the most common mistakes is performing the exercise too quickly. When the arms move rapidly and breathing becomes shallow, the nervous system shifts toward a stress response. Stress hormones can interfere with memory and concentration, which defeats the purpose of the exercise. Slow, controlled movement keeps the nervous system calm and allows oxygen to reach the brain efficiently. Another mistake is inconsistency. Performing the exercise several times one week and then forgetting about it for several days reduces its effectiveness. The brain strengthens pathways through repetition. Think of the exercise as watering a plant. A small amount of water each day keeps the plant alive and growing. Watering heavily once and then forgetting about it for a week will not produce the same result. 1 minute a day is enough to stimulate the brain, but it must happen regularly. Distractions also reduce the effectiveness of the exercise. Many people try to perform it while watching television or having a conversation. The problem is that divided attention weakens the brain's focus on the task. This minute should be treated as a dedicated moment for your brain. Silence or a calm environment helps the mind remain fully engaged. There are also small strategies that can enhance the results of the routine. One helpful technique is drinking a glass of water shortly before beginning. The brain is composed largely of water, and proper hydration improves circulation and electrical signaling between neurons. When the brain is well hydrated, neural communication becomes more efficient, which supports learning and memory formation. Another helpful technique involves something surprisingly simple: a slight smile. Before starting the exercise, gently smile for a few seconds. This small gesture triggers the release of neurotransmitters associated with positive mood and relaxation. A relaxed brain learns more efficiently than a stressed brain. Even a small emotional shift can influence how effectively the brain forms new connections. Teaching the exercise to someone else is another powerful strategy. When you explain a concept to another person, your brain organizes the information more clearly. This process reinforces your own neural pathways while helping someone else benefit from the technique. Many people find that practicing the exercise with a partner or family member increases motivation and consistency. Over time, these small daily sessions can accumulate into meaningful changes in mental clarity and memory retrieval. The brain thrives on stimulation, and when it receives the right type of challenge consistently, it responds by strengthening its internal networks. The beauty of this exercise lies in its simplicity. In just 60 seconds a day, you create a moment where breathing, movement, and cognition work together to encourage the brain to stay active. As simple as the 60-second exercise appears, its effectiveness depends greatly on how it is practiced and how it fits into daily habits. Many people begin with enthusiasm, perform the routine a few times, and then slowly forget about it. Others try to rush through it quickly, thinking that finishing faster will produce the same benefit. In reality, the opposite is true. The power of this exercise lies not in speed or intensity but in calm repetition, attention, and consistency. Understanding the most common mistakes can make the difference between a routine that truly stimulates the brain and one that becomes just another forgotten habit. The first mistake is rushing the movement. People often lift their arms quickly and breathe shallowly, almost like they are trying to finish the exercise as soon as possible. When this happens, the brain does not receive the full benefit of the coordination between breathing, movement, and mental activity. Rapid breathing activates the stress response of the nervous system. Stress hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline prepare the body for quick reactions, but they interfere with memory formation and concentration. Instead of stimulating neuroplasticity, rushing the exercise can create unnecessary tension. The correct approach is slow and deliberate movement. Each breath should be deep and controlled. Each arm movement should feel smooth and intentional. The slower rhythm allows oxygen to reach the brain efficiently and gives the mind enough space to focus on the mental task. The second common mistake is inconsistency. Performing the exercise several times in 1 week and then skipping many days interrupts the process of strengthening neural pathways. The brain builds connections through repetition. Just as muscles grow stronger when exercised regularly, neural circuits become stronger when activated frequently. Think of the brain like a trail through a forest. If you walk the same path every day, it becomes clear and easy to follow. But if you stop walking it, the vegetation slowly begins to cover it again. Consistency keeps the pathway open. 1 minute each day may seem small, but over the course of a week that becomes 7 minutes of focused brain stimulation. Over a month it becomes 30 minutes of structured mental training. The accumulation of these minutes is what encourages the brain to maintain and strengthen its networks. Another mistake involves distractions. Some people attempt to perform the exercise while watching television, talking on the phone, or scrolling through their devices. When attention is divided, the brain cannot fully engage in the coordination between movement and thought. The exercise loses its ability to stimulate multiple brain regions simultaneously. That 1 minute should be treated as a brief appointment with your brain. A quiet moment without distractions allows the mind to remain fully present in the activity. This focused attention is what helps sculpt new neural connections. There are also a few small habits that can significantly enhance the results of the exercise. One of the simplest is hydration. The human brain is composed of nearly 75% water. Proper hydration supports the electrical signals that neurons use to communicate with one another. Even mild dehydration can slow cognitive processes and reduce concentration. Drinking a glass of water shortly before performing the exercise helps ensure that the brain has the resources it needs to function optimally. It is like giving fuel to an engine before asking it to perform. Another surprisingly effective strategy involves mood. Emotional state influences how the brain processes information. When a person feels relaxed and positive, the brain releases neurotransmitters such as dopamine and serotonin. These chemicals improve learning and strengthen neural connections. A simple way to trigger this state is to begin the exercise with a gentle smile. This may sound trivial, but facial expressions send signals to the brain that influence emotional chemistry. A small smile can shift the nervous system toward a calmer, more receptive state. Social interaction can also amplify the benefits of the routine. Teaching the exercise to someone else, perhaps a spouse, friend, or neighbor, creates an additional layer of mental engagement. When you explain the steps to another person, your brain organizes the information in a clearer way. This strengthens your own understanding while also helping another person benefit from the technique. Practicing together can also increase motivation. Many habits become easier to maintain when they are shared. Another powerful way to support memory involves expanding daily mental stimulation beyond the exercise itself. The 60-second routine acts as a spark that activates neural networks, but the brain continues benefiting when it remains engaged throughout the day. Reading books, solving puzzles, learning a new skill, playing a musical instrument, or engaging in meaningful conversation all stimulate neuroplasticity. Curiosity is one of the brain's greatest allies. When the mind remains curious about the world, it naturally searches for new information and forms new connections. Physical activity also plays an important role. Movement increases blood circulation throughout the body, including the brain. Walking, stretching, or light exercise encourages the release of growth factors that support neuron health and connectivity. Even moderate daily activity can improve cognitive function over time. When physical movement is combined with mental challenges, the brain receives a powerful stimulus for growth. Nutrition is another factor that influences brain performance. The brain consumes a large portion of the body's energy supply, and it requires a steady flow of nutrients to function efficiently. Diets rich in vegetables, fruits, healthy fats, and whole foods provide the building blocks necessary for neuronal health. Omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, and vitamins help protect brain cells from oxidative stress and inflammation. While no single food can guarantee perfect memory, a balanced diet creates conditions that support cognitive resilience. Sleep is equally essential. During sleep, the brain performs many maintenance functions. It clears metabolic waste, consolidates memories, and strengthens neural connections formed during the day. Poor sleep can disrupt these processes and contribute to mental fog or forgetfulness. Establishing a consistent sleep routine allows the brain to recover and prepare for the next day's learning and activity. It is also important to maintain perspective about memory lapses. Occasional forgetfulness is a normal part of life and does not necessarily indicate serious cognitive decline. Stress, fatigue, distraction, and emotional overload can all interfere temporarily with memory retrieval. When people become anxious about forgetting, that anxiety itself can make recall more difficult. Approaching memory training with patience and curiosity rather than fear creates a healthier relationship with the brain. The 60-second exercise is valuable because it reminds us that the brain responds to care and stimulation. Instead of accepting forgetfulness as an inevitable consequence of aging, individuals can actively participate in maintaining their cognitive health. Small daily habits, repeated consistently, can produce meaningful changes over time. At this point you understand the science behind the exercise, how to perform it, and how to gradually increase its difficulty to keep your brain engaged. But there is one final and very important piece to understand. Knowledge alone does not change the brain. Action does. The true value of this 60-second routine appears only when it becomes part of your daily life. The good news is that it requires very little time, which makes it one of the most accessible mental exercises anyone can practice. 1 minute is shorter than the time it takes to prepare a cup of coffee, shorter than the time spent checking a message on your phone, and yet that 1 minute can become a daily signal telling your brain that it must stay active, flexible, and responsive. Think about how many habits already shape your day without you even noticing them. Brushing your teeth, making breakfast, turning on the television, checking the weather, locking the door before leaving home. These actions have become automatic because they are repeated regularly. The same principle can apply to brain training. If you attach this 60-second exercise to an existing habit, it becomes easier to maintain. For example, you might decide that every morning before drinking your coffee you will perform your 1-minute brain routine. Or perhaps you prefer doing it after lunch or before going to bed. The exact time does not matter as much as consistency. When the routine becomes predictable, your brain begins to expect it. Over time it stops feeling like an extra task and starts feeling like a natural part of your day. This is when the real long-term benefits begin to appear. Small daily efforts accumulate in powerful ways. 1 minute a day may seem insignificant, but over a year that becomes more than 6 hours of focused cognitive stimulation. 6 hours of coordinated breathing, movement, and memory retrieval repeated consistently can strengthen neural networks in ways that occasional longer exercises cannot. Another important idea to remember is patience. The brain does not change overnight. Neural pathways strengthen gradually through repeated activation. Some people notice improvements in mental clarity within a few days or weeks, while others experience more subtle progress over time. The important thing is not expecting immediate transformation but trusting the process of consistent stimulation. Just as physical fitness develops through regular training, cognitive resilience grows through repeated mental activity. It is also helpful to pay attention to small signs of improvement. Perhaps you begin recalling names a little faster during conversations. Maybe you follow the storyline of a book or television program more easily. Perhaps you notice that words come to mind more quickly when you are speaking. These subtle changes indicate that neural communication is becoming more efficient. Celebrating these small victories encourages motivation and reinforces the habit. The exercise can also become an opportunity to reconnect with curiosity. As you experiment with different mental categories, animals, cities, tools, historical figures, you may discover topics that interest you. Curiosity stimulates the brain in powerful ways. When we feel curious, the brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter that supports motivation and learning. Curiosity encourages exploration, and exploration keeps neural networks flexible and active. Another powerful aspect of this routine is its potential to inspire others. When friends or family members notice you practicing the exercise, they may ask what you are doing. Explaining the routine allows you to share a simple tool that could benefit them as well. Teaching the exercise reinforces your own understanding and creates an opportunity for shared motivation. Imagine a couple practicing the routine together each morning, or a group of friends challenging each other to new mental categories each week. The exercise becomes not only a personal habit but also a shared experience that encourages cognitive health in the people around you. It is also important to remember that the brain thrives on variety. While the 60-second exercise acts as a daily foundation, additional activities throughout the day can complement its effects. Reading a new book, learning a new language, practicing a musical instrument, or even engaging in thoughtful conversation all stimulate different neural networks. Each new skill creates additional pathways in the brain's vast network of connections. The more these pathways are used, the stronger and more efficient they become. Physical health also supports cognitive health. Walking, stretching, and maintaining an active lifestyle improve circulation and deliver oxygen and nutrients to brain tissue. Balanced nutrition provides the building blocks necessary for neuron function. Quality sleep allows the brain to consolidate memories and clear metabolic waste. When these factors combine, movement, nutrition, sleep, and mental activity, they create an environment where the brain can thrive. Perhaps the most important message to remember is that age does not eliminate the brain's ability to adapt. For many years people believed that cognitive decline was an unavoidable part of growing older. Modern neuroscience tells a different story. While some changes naturally occur with time, the brain retains remarkable plasticity throughout life. Neurons continue forming connections in response to stimulation. Learning, practicing, and challenging the mind can encourage the brain to reorganize and strengthen itself even later in life. The 60-second exercise represents a simple but powerful example of applied neuroscience. It combines breathing to improve oxygenation, movement to stimulate coordination centers, and mental tasks to activate memory retrieval. These elements work together to encourage communication across multiple brain regions. With repetition, this communication strengthens neural pathways involved in attention, language, and recall. But the exercise is more than just a technique. It is a reminder that cognitive health is something we can actively nurture. Rather than passively accepting forgetfulness, we can choose habits that stimulate and support the brain. Each time you perform the routine, you are sending a message to yourself: my brain matters, my memory matters, and I am willing to care for it. Now the choice is yours. You can finish reading and continue your day as usual, or you can take the first small step right now. Stand up, find a chair, sit comfortably with your back straight, and begin your first 60 seconds. Lift one arm slowly while breathing in, lower it while breathing out, and let your mind search for the first word in your chosen category. Fruits, animals, cities, any category will do. Continue for 1 minute. That minute is more than an exercise. It is the beginning of a habit that supports your brain's vitality. 1 minute today, another tomorrow, and another the day after that. Small actions repeated consistently have the power to reshape the brain's pathways over time. The remarkable organ inside your head has served you for decades, storing memories, guiding decisions, and helping you experience the world. Giving it 60 seconds of focused attention each day is a simple but meaningful way to return that care. Your brain is capable of far more adaptation than most people realize. With curiosity, patience, and consistent stimulation, it can continue learning, remembering, and responding with clarity for many years to come. The journey toward a sharper mind does not require complicated technology or hours of training. Sometimes it begins with something as simple as one intentional minute.